Hey everybody, it's Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn. I used to do Spider-Man. I got McFarlane toys and do some stuff in Hollywood and just try to hang out in pop culture. And I've been in the industry now for over 30 years. It makes me sort of a cagey vet. And really sort of the biggest shift I've seen for me in terms of the work is that it was pen on paper. Everybody knows how to do that. And it was manual labor. And then probably 10, 12 years ago, I moved over to the computer. When we started Image comic books, actually 25 years ago, we completely went to computerized coloring, which was just becoming out of its infancy, and we were the ones that sort of brought it out full bloom. So Marvel had been toying with it a little bit, but we were the ones that said, no, we're going to go with slicker paper. We're going to go with slicker coloring, and all of this then required now us going and using the computer. Also, you know, this is how old some of the books are that used to send off the pages, and they used to have to do the coloring on what they call like litho paper and litho coloring, Ruby Lith, if you guys know what that is. And if you're not, look it up. It's crazy how we used to color. And now not only can we do it on the computer, but we can now download. I mean, you guys know Dropbox and all these things. We can now download to our printers anywhere in the world a product, and we don't have to send. There's no film anymore, which is a big component because, again, sometimes we had issues with film. So everything is instantaneous, right? Now, the downside is, as artists, as you guys all know, that we will then eat up all that extra time and just go right up to the hour before we got to go to press because we're still working on it. So you don't really gain anything. But it's amazing then that by 12 o'clock on Friday, which we just did yesterday, I finished up a comic book, and 2 hours later we're downloading it to the printer, doing a press check at 3 o'clock over the computer, and they're printing the comic book by midnight. I was lucky that I was able to break in with the big companies first, make sort of a career and a brand, and got my name out there. And then I was able to take that momentum and take it over into my own IPs. And so there's sort of two ways you can go, and we have both of them at Image Comics. You know, we're the third largest comic company behind Marvel and DC, and have been for 25 years. That we have both people who worked at the big two, Marvel and DC, and then came and brought their IP to us, or they just basically never have worked for those two companies because their style and the stories they want to tell aren't conducive, and we're printing those too. So if you can come with momentum, it makes it easier. I'm not gonna kid you. But if you just have good product, then there's two things. Number one, and it's the obvious one, just do the damn work. I mean, I'm gonna be old now. I'm gonna be a dad, right? The most skilled people don't get to the top of the heap. It's the ones that work hard. And if you happen to work hard and you're skilled, you're really going to be in a good spot. But I can tell you, in my life, in both athletics, because I got my schooling paid for playing Pac-10 baseball, in both athletics and in in business and in art, the only reason I've had the level of success that I've had is just because I'm a hustler and I grind it. I'm here at San Diego Con. I make a good living. I could be sleeping every night, but I've been up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning the last 3 days because I've had 2 scripts that I've had to get due, and I was just finishing some stuff on the movie, and there was a couple covers I had to do. Why? We have deadlines. And I'm telling you, out of anybody that's probably listening, I could probably afford not to hit the deadline and go to sleep. But it's the reason why I've had a 30-year career, I believe, because I just go, okay, if the 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds don't want to do it, then you're gonna get embarrassed by a 50-year-old, right? Shame on you, right? The young kid should always beat the 50-year-old. And here's the upside why you potentially want to do your own IP is that then if you have any sort of level of success, you then get people asking about your brand, your characters, whatever it is, your story, whatever it is you come up with, your music, I don't care. There's a wide variety of it. And then if you have that success, you can start to sort of say, well, I want to have, you know, more and more input into it, right? If you early on, if you're sort of a newbie and they take your intellectual property, they're going to give you some money. They're going to humor you a little bit, and they're going to be spending the $20 million and doing it their way. And you're going to go along for the ride, and it's going to be kind of cool. A little bit later, if you again build your resume again through hard work and diligence and skill, then you get to say, no, this is how we want to do it. So for me, what that means is that now 25 years later, I walk into Hollywood and I go, if you guys want Spawn, and they do, because Marvel and DC are off the reservation because Warner Brothers and Disney are not going to share them with their competitors, that now Universal and Fox and Sony and Lionsgate and those companies, they need cool comic book stuff to try and compete with the Marvel and DC. And so I go, here, if you want it, here's the deal. I write, produce, and direct. Non-negotiable. Now, as a CEO, I would never make that offer if it wasn't fair-minded. So I would never write or create or think of an idea that was worth $100 million and say, I want to be the new director on it. So I've created a story that is, I think I can shoot for $10 to $12 million. It would just be a dark, spooky, creepy supernatural thriller, not a superhero movie. And horror, I don't use the word horror because that sort of tends to get into slasher movies. So it's just going to be a dark, odd, creepy movie that hopefully you'll just go, what was that? And in my movie, there will only be one thing that's not real. If you take Spawn out of this movie, the rest of the world is normal. It's the world you and I live with. And those were the movies I grew up with. So I'll list a couple I grew up with: Exorcist and The Omen, Jaws, John Carpenter's The Thing, and even more recently things like The Ring and The Grudge, and Annabelle, and there are these things that are these creepy movies. And if you take out the boogeyman, the monster, the creature in each one of those, the movie's normal. Right? So if any of you guys have ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing, take The Thing out of it. You have a bunch of guys freezing their ass off up in the North Pole. Right? That's it. It's kind of a boring story. So you put one thing into it, and it changes the dynamics of it. So and it's not an origin story. Again, how in Jaws did the shark get to be 25, 30 feet big? I don't know. They never talked about it in the movie. They never explained it. Did it diminish your enjoyment of that movie because you didn't know the origin of the giant shark? No. It was just a cool movie. So we're just going to do something dark and creepy.